god. Oh my god. I'm sorry. Oh well. Oh my god, I get perfectly.
in his Shinigami attire, proving that he is a badass Shinigami and not some goofy father. One of his best moments in the entire series occurs in chapter 398, when he sends Aizen crashing through several buildings after a flick of his finger. During their battle, Isshin is able to bring Aizen to the very limits of a Shinigami, and it is at this point during their fight where Aizen's soul begins to be reformed, as he states that the Hokyoku has understood Aizen's will and is now fulfilling his desire. During their fight, they are later accompanied by the arrival of Urahara. Both Urahara and Isshin begin to simultaneously attack Aizen after he transforms. They are also accompanied by Yoriichi, as the three of them work together against Aizen. In chapter 405, Isshin reveals that he too is able to use the Getsuga Tensho, but at this point Aizen is too powerful to be affected by such a technique, as his Reiatsu has now become unreadable. Aizen swiftly defeats Urahara, Yoriichi and Isshin and leaves for the real Karakura town. When Isshin recovers, he shakes some sense into his son, as he tells him to open up a Senkaimon so that they can follow Aizen. In this moment, he reaffirms Ichigo's purpose to protect Karakura town, as he knows of a way to defeat Aizen. Isshin holds back the currents of the Dangai in order for Ichigo to enter into Jinzen and to ask Zangetsu about the final Getsuga Tensho. In chapter 409, Isshin comments that the final Getsuga Tensho is a technique that their Zanpakuto will not want to teach them, as he recalls his own experiences with his own Zanpakuto Engetsu. After Ichigo attains the ability, he arrives in the real Karakura town within the Soul Society with an unconscious Isshin over his shoulder. After placing his father underground, Ichigo thanks him as he begins his battle against Aizen, thus ending Isshin's involvement within the fake Karakura town arc. Now, during the Four Ring arc, Isshin's role within the story is very shady. In fact, it's very similar to how Urahara even turns away from Ichigo. It's very confusing until you know the purpose behind their actions. Like in chapter 441, when Ichigo is walking home and he sees Isshin stood with Urahara, and when Isshin notices Ichigo's presence, he tells Urahara to move to a place where they can discuss privately. In chapter 448, there are more hints as to what Isshin and Urahara are doing behind the scenes. They are in Urahara's store as a mysterious figure steps forth from the shadows. This Shinigami appears to be inserting their Reiatsu into a large glowing container. In chapter 454, we see Isshin carrying a glowing sword-like object under the moonlit sky with Urahara. The reasons behind their vague and pensive nature is explained after Ichigo loses his Four Ring abilities. When he is stabbed, he looks behind to see Urahara and Isshin, and he questions whether if Tsukishima is controlling them too. But Isshin directs him to look at who had stabbed him, and gradually as Ichigo's powers return to him, he is able to see that Rukia was the one wielding the sword that had stabbed Ichigo, thus returning his powers back to him. We then see Isshin and Urahara knock Chad and Orihime unconscious, as they begin to have a mental breakdown from Tsukishima's abilities. After taking them to Urahara's store, Urahara tells Isshin to stay behind, as he returns to the battlefield, as they comment upon Ichigo learning the truth behind the substitute Shinigami title and the badge that he has been carrying. Now, as far as Isshin's involvement during the 1000-year Blood War arc is concerned, he confronts Ichigo after he is thrown out of the Soul King's palace. We learn that Isshin was kept up to date about what is happening within the Soul Society by Urahara, as he deduces that Ichigo was sent back home by the royal guards. It is here that the Everything But the Rain flashback arc takes place, where Isshin reveals to Ichigo the truth about his heritage, revealing that he is not only a Shinigami, but he is also a Quincy. Ichigo also here learns the true reason behind the death of Masaki, and how Yhwach was responsible for it. In chapter 537, Ichigo thanks his father for relaying to him the truth about his life, thus ending a plot thread that was established as early as chapter 398, where Isshin had first appeared before Ichigo as a Shinigami. During the fake Karakura town arc, Isshin had stated that Ichigo may have a lot of questions for him, but they will have to wait until later. But Ichigo had stated that he has no questions to ask him, because there must have been a reason why Isshin had been so secretive, and he must have had a reason for not telling Ichigo that he was a Shinigami. Ichigo doesn't force his father to tell him anything here. He is confident that Isshin will explain to him everything when the time is right. When Isshin had made his appearance during the fake Karakura town arc, he had actually interrupted Aizen about to reveal to Ichigo everything that he knows about him, as he had said to Ichigo that he is a human and before he can finish his sentence, Isshin appears, and the sentence that Aizen was about to say is completed during the 1000-year Blood War arc, where we learn that Ichigo is a human and a Quincy.
Hi, Dad. Oh, kailangan ko yung kotse sana. Sa labas? Ay, ganun. Hindi ko tinignan eh. Okay. Okay. Oke, sige, sige. Sige, thank you. Bye-bye.
Quincy, and it is further cemented this idea that Ishin's character is a tool of foreshadowing that Kubo utilizes. Later, Ishin and Ryuken do arrive within Waterworld at the end of the Thousand Year Blood War arc. They were able to create a portal and travel to Waterworld thanks to an item that had belonged to Uryu's grandfather Soken Ishida. The two of them unfortunately don't really get involved in any of the combat, with Ishin's role being limited to accompanying Ryuken as he hands over to his son the still silver arrowhead. I think if the Thousand Year Blood War arc didn't have such a rushed ending, then we would have seen them utilize more of their abilities and even had a chance to see Ishin's Bankai. But unfortunately, this is the only disappointment that I have in relation to Ishin's character, his lack of involvement during the Thousand Year Blood War arc. Now the last point that I want to mention is about Ishin Zanpakuto. Now there was some debate about how Ishin knows Getsuga Tensho and how he has the knowledge of the final Getsuga Tensho. I'd always theorized that the Zanpakuto and the abilities that Ichigo and his father have are inherited from the Shiba clan, thus explaining why their Zanpakuto spirits sound so alike, with Ishin having Engetsu while Ichigo has Zangetsu, and so these abilities and techniques are passed down through the Shiba clan. Ishin is another excellent character written by Kubo. He has a perfect character design and his demeanor is very stoic and mysterious. This is at its peak during the Fullbring arc, but by default he is a very goofy character, especially when he is around his kids. And his character is involved in a lot of satisfactory moments, especially during the Aranka arc when he first appears as a Shinigami, and especially during the Fate Karakuro-chan arc where Ichigo learns that his father is more than just this goofy character. Ishin, similar to Yuriichi, had abandoned his noble lineage. He had abandoned his position as a captain, and he had done all of this for the Quincy that had saved his life. So, like Urohara, what did you think about this exiled Shinigami? Do you love Ishin's character as much as I do? If there are any points that I forgot to mention about his character, then definitely leave a comment and let me know. But this is everything that I have on Ishin